anybody is listening, if anybody is listening to this message, you have...
I am the Dark Protagonist, and this is your Infernal review for Welcome to Hanwell. Before I get into it, I'm primarily a Twitch streamer, so check me out there. My Infernal reviews are based off a 4-hour stream I do, because I figure most people are not sticking with a game that doesn't grab you in that time. If you come at the beginning of one of my Horror Night streams, I will play and review any horror game that chat has requested. So if you have a game you're curious about, hit up my Twitch, and you will likely see it getting played. Now, at the matter at hand, welcome to Hanwell. This game was clearly made on a budget, and it shows. They unsuccessfully tried to channel Silent Hill into an open-world game. Just look at the title screen, and you can see their influences. The town is even covered in a supernatural fog. The biggest misstep was the main protagonist is a nameless, faceless man who wakes up in the middle of a morgue from hell. The character really doesn't develop much from there. In fact, you have almost no interactions with non-monster characters. The story is almost exclusively told with notes, auto recording, and some cool visual set pieces. You know, in the story, you travel to a collection of standard horror locations. You know, church, school, house. You get the idea. Each details a depraved individual and how they handled the town being overrun by these monsters. Each one is more or less an independent story and can be experienced in any order. So I have a hard time going into telling you one of them because it'd be a spoiler, because if you did it last, you know. But all the stories are interesting, they're varied, but they don't really hit the depth that you would expect from a game like this, especially one that suffers in all the other areas. The main thing tying them all together is this evil doctor who's clearly responsible for the monsters. None of the stories end up building on each other in meaningful ways. It just feels like, you know, they had budget for 6 stories, so they did 6 stories. The gameplay can be easily divided into 3 different gameplay types. Puzzle sections were your typical find the keys, solve the riddles. None of these were particularly special, but they were unique and easy to solve. So it's not like you've done them before, but they weren't particularly difficult. So they made a nice, like, sidetrack for the other parts of the game. However, if you're looking for a puzzle game, I would think you should go somewhere else. Then you have your basic amnesia sections where, you know, you run away from the bad guy. You don't have a weapon. These are fun, but they don't really do anything all that interesting or unique from what you've already seen before. The other bigger issue with them is that your run speed is so slow, it just feels like you're walking after a monster walking after you. But the combat is another issue, so that's probably the third section, and probably the least fun, in my opinion. All weapons are melee. You can pick them up off the ground and you just smash them. They do not break. Once you have a weapon, you keep it for that story section. In the story, there wasn't much combat, but so what was there was welcome and kind of a breaking point. But it was exclusively in the open world was just combat, and that dragged. Basically, the open world kind of ruined this game for me. You wander around a modestly sized overworld where enemies randomly attack you. If you have a weapon, you're going to win the fight. I was killed maybe 2 or 3 times, tops, in my entire 5 hours I played this game. You don't need to worry about resources. Because it's just tedious, so it ended up just being tedious and pointless wandering. You can only enter buildings after you drop all your weapons, so that they do that so that they can set up story sections where you don't have weapons, but it made no sense in the context of the story, and it also made it so you were never progressing your character, and you were never managing resources, so there was no real stress to dying or going into places, so essentially the open world just felt like a tedious place to go find random collectibles. And they made the weird decision of locking off the last area after you beat the game, so that if there was a collectible you did not collect in that area, and there are collectibles in that area, it is impossible to get all the collectibles. That's why I'm not going to bother trying to find the rest of the collectibles, because If one is locked away and I have no way of getting it, I'll never know. I feel bad because most of what I've said has been negative, and I would honestly have a hard time recommending this game to anyone. That being said, this game is far from bad, and I can tell a lot of time and effort went into it. The dev team clearly had a lot of love for it. The set pieces were amazing, and if this developer made another game, I would absolutely be all over it. They just wasted too much time on the open world, and I think the rest of the game suffered. So the story never really came together. The different sections weren't engaging enough, and it basically sucked the good out of the rest of the game. And I think the dev team understands that because they actually released a version without the open world. I still wouldn't recommend that. I don't think it ever crosses that threshold of being a game that's truly good, that there weren't other games that did it better. I had a good time with it, though. I spent more than 5 hours with it. When my stream was over, I still kept playing. And so I can't say don't play this game, but I wouldn't recommend it.